the professional development workshops for community college faculty to get NSF to fund it. We also started including high school teachers because they were much more willing to fund us if we started including high school teachers, but that's neither here nor there. As a part of that, what became the idea of, well, we should have a targeted workshop project or workshop for new faculty, those in their first 5 years of teaching at a community college. That doesn't necessarily mean you had to be your first 5 years of teaching. It had to be your first 5 years of community college, because let's face it, it's very different if you're at R1 than you are if you're at a community college, in terms of both things, in terms of the actual teaching, in terms of tenure processes and so on, and just what's generally expected. That we actually funded the first one of those out of Tom and I's grant, and then Todd and Scott went off and applied for and got a grant, an NSF grant, to continue that for a few more cycles. So the original idea of this National Center for Two-Year College Physics was to take all three of those ideas, the networking and the community building, TYC 21, the professional development workshops for existing faculty in terms of whether that's something Joe mentioned earlier, computational physics and introductory physics at the two-year college level, to labs, to lecture-based innovations, and then also the new faculty experiences that became to known under Todd and Scott, to merge all of those into a single overarching National Center for Two-Year College Physics. Okay, that wouldn't mean there wouldn't be other parts of it, but those would have been the three big branches of it. That would have been the networking, which of course would be very different now than it was in 1996, 97. Okay, because let's face it, technology's changed a little bit, aka what we're using right now, because email was not even that common. I didn't have college email at the time TYC 21 was starting, so it was definitely a different experience. And then the professional development for existing, not new, and then the new. That was the overarching. There were other ideas, other things we could build into that and see how it fit, but that was kind of the overarching idea and the overarching concept of what the National Center for Two-Year College Physics was supposed to be. And those had come together over those three projects into trying to get a little more coherency and into a more centralized control. So I hope that goes with along what you wanted, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's the background that I think will at least bring people up to speed. I was peripherally I was part of the new faculty experience and then got roped into this, and look at me now. But that this has been talked about since I think nearly my first. I've heard of this since I became involved in the community at all. So it will have been a long time coming whenever we get it to go. Thanks for that wrap-up.
One last thing, I mean, just to give you an idea, I really honestly think this was originally Kurt's idea back when they still had grants to have a National Center for Two-Year College Physics, and it just never came to fruition, and we're still fighting it. And Kurt's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he retired quite a few years ago, and this was still, I mean, back when it was Kurt and Tom during the workshops, this was already a discussion point, and we're still not there.
So one of the issues is that we, haven't been successful in getting a grant, and I'm representing the two-year colleges on the board of directors at AAPT. So in January, the board was presented with a first draft of funding priorities. What this group of, so it was the Area Committee for Physics and Undergraduate Education came up with this first draft for what they think things should be funded. And the two-year college committee, a lot of you in the Zoom call contributed, and Glenda did a phenomenal, very quick leading of getting some input to get two-year college voice into that draft. So that's been submitted to the board, or to Beth Cunningham, the CEO, but it hasn't been discussed by the board yet. So we're having our meeting April 10th. I don't know if we'll discuss that earlier than that or not. But if you want kind of, I can share my screen and show you like the summary page for the draft of what the undergraduate physics committee had. And Glenda would be the best person to, if you'd like, talk about what we contributed in brief.
I think, Chris, do you have some or all of that info in your summary?
I don't have all of the draft stuff that Krista's talking about, but I took ideas from there and also from an article that I co-wrote with Bob here and Tom Okuma, looking at two-year colleges and professional societies. And that's where I learned about a lot of these past projects. And in that article, we end with a proposal that we should have a dedicated national institute. Right. So I don't know. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and then Krista, maybe you can fill in any important missed details.
Excellent.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So this is not the most beautiful of slides, but here we are. So I think this is not bad for half an hour of work this afternoon. So the article that we put together and should be coming out sometime this year in the New Directions for Community Colleges, I believe it's the journal. So what I had envisioned, because I hadn't actually talked to Dwayne about this yet, and we were, in a deadline. So what I came up with was sort of 3 prongs. We have the professional development prong, and the community building to deal with the isolation, and then also just a place to have resources where we can share things like Compadre does, but more dedicated to your colleges. But the other thing that came up is that we have all these reports and data and books and memories, right, of how things worked, like, oh, the tandem meeting, how does that work, and who organized it last, and this is all sort of anecdotal. There isn't an archive for all of this previous work. So I think that was another prong that I think would be really useful to have in this sort of national institute. Right. And so a lot of the workshops and series that Dwayne already mentioned. And then I added in here as well the Leadership Institute that Scott Schultz and Brooke Haig had started, I think, with Beth Cunningham. And one of the things I know we had talked about at one of the NFEs was the idea of having, on-demand kind of video recording of workshops, because it was so hard to get people, or for people to be able to make the time or have the money to go to a conference or a workshop series face-to-face. Of course, now we can also do live feeds, because, this pandemic has shown us lots of ways we can connect, right? So that sort of stuff I put in here. And then in the community building, a lot of different mentoring ideas came up, right? So the regional networks, the TYC 21 had instituted, and then that fell apart because, grant funding went out. But there's also this e-alliance I put down here, e-alliance model that is coming to a close soon, also run through APT, but it's another grant, and it's supporting women in physics. But I think it's a great model that we can use to help support isolated 2-year college faculty. So, and then also, idea of tandem meetings, and that's another good face-to-face way of connecting people. And then again, data, right? So AIP does a whole bunch of surveys, but they lump 2-year colleges in with undergraduate, 4-year institutions. And I think we have fairly different populations and different needs. And I think it would be good to be able to disaggregate that data. So there are very few surveys that focus only on 2-year colleges or compare 2-year colleges in sort of introductory 4-year college. And then the other thing that's come out quite recently is this idea that, and I think this was also in our white paper proposal, that a lot of PER work is studying students at four-year schools and a lot of, research intensive places. A lot of students are taking physics at two-year colleges, and we don't have any PER data, very little. Krista is one of, I think, the pioneers there. And then we have, these guidelines that were put together 20 years ago now, and they haven't been updated, and it's probably time we update them, but not having a central location and just leaving it up to the committee members can be problematic because, we all have other full-time jobs as well, right? So having a place where things are stored, but also a place where things can evolve, more centralized manner would be useful. And then, like I was saying, prior event activities, we don't have resources archived anywhere, right? So trying to put together this article of 30 years of APT and two-year college connections, we're digging through. Well, Tom and Bob were digging through their personal archives, and Bob sent me a box of books, so I now have a bunch of. Anyway, so that's it. My internet connection is unstable, so I will stop screen sharing.
I know, Glenda, you mentioned in the chat that there's a link to the things we submitted to this white paper. Krista, do you want to show us some details? Are there things you want to fill in that are headed to the?
Well, if you'd like me to, I'd be happy to. You would have to make me a co-host because your Zoom is nicely locked down.
You are now a co-host.
There
Yeah,
you go.
This is the same Zoom that I do with my same account I use with students. So,
Okay, so
I'll keep them all locked
down. I think, are you seeing my second screen here? Is it too small?
I am seeing, I see it.
Oh.
Depends on our screens too, I think.
All right, I'll just share one document at a time. So I don't know why this. Oh, this is it. Okay, so the document that was sent to the board to review and either endorse or comment or whatever. I'm not actually entirely sure what the next steps are for the board, but it was three-pronged. And so the purpose of the white paper is to propose 3 funding initiatives to NSF. And in theory, then NSF would use these to help decide what things get funded, which is why the TYC wanted to be involved in this paper. So the first one was physics curriculum conferences. Second is about laboratories, physics laboratories. And the third was preparing STEM diversity change agent teams for success. And so the paper is, a number of pages long, but that's kind of the gist of what they said, what funding priorities should be for NSF. And so Glenda did this amazing job getting all of us together, and a lot of you on this call contributed to this, and basically inputted just that a number 4, creation. Whoops, I'm not sharing that. Let me pick that one now. So creation of a National Institute of Physics for two-year college, and Chris just did a great job of explaining what the heck that is. So a one-time funding initiative to create a national and virtual institute for two-year college physics that provides sustainable faculty training on updated curriculum and pedagogies, continuing professional development guidelines, and critical space for community building, engagement, and sharing of resources, which Chris did, that PowerPoint was actually, to me, I thought that did a really nice job of putting all those words into, something that I'll probably remember better than a paragraph. So we did have some tweaks on some of their funding, but the idea is that we wanted the two-year college priorities to be part of the priorities, because two-year colleges are different than four-year colleges, but they're still undergraduate education and we needed our voice in there. So I don't know how much of that you want to, talk through the rationale. Do you want to comment on that, Glenda, since you did a great job of leading everyone on that?
All right. First of all, does everybody know that the 10-page document that Chris had been is everybody here know the 10-page document that Chris had been working on for months before, and then she let us know as we were working on this. It was amazing, and it was a 10-page document outlining the ideas of what this NIPTIC, the National Institute for Physics, would be. And basically, as she summarized on the slides, right? The professional development, the community building, some place for data storage, etc. But there were a lot of references. There's the explanations are articulated well there, etc. It's 10-page document. And basically what we wrote here in essence is following those ideas because they were so nicely done. And it's in essence, we're summarizing what was written there. And it's things that we still have to together as a group, maybe share tasks and really put this in writing. And then when we get to the nitty gritty, and then we'll know better questions, what we need to improve, or what exactly we mean about what we wrote. But here is just a general trend of what we want. The main issue is sustainability. Sustainability is the key question, the key word here. How can you sustain all our information, our efforts, even when grant funds are dry out and etc. How can we keep the information is still available to everyone and still things afloat, right? And an institute it would be a better model than trying small grants just to promote, say, workshops, which are valuable, but maybe an institute is the way to go really now. Well, it is. Yeah, that's it. And I would like to say this was this was really group work, and me, boy, I was just I was just together with everyone, so it's really group work. And I think a lot of ideas came from the 10-page document that Chris did. If she hadn't done that, we would be lost at this point. So there are questions to me, like, for instance, there were a while ago some conversation about whether we also want to talk about including some aspects of how to include some research for students at community college. How can we train our faculty or promote more in connections so that to TYC we also promote some level of research for our students, research opportunities. I don't know how, there was some talk a while ago about exploring that aspect of something that would have to be written in a grant if we go for that. Marie Lopez, she is, I think, the main person organizing this white paper, I think. And so she is scheduled a meeting on Monday. We'll have a meeting, and she, they read our suggestion to add a fourth item to this white paper. And they will meet with us on Monday. And I am not sure where things will go, but hopefully it will all be embraced and added. And maybe there'll be a few tweaks of what is currently written here. I'm not sure where things will go. Do you guys think, anybody has more experience, think where things probably will go at the meeting on Monday? What could be the reaction that people outside of TYC might think about us proposing to add this to that white paper? Could there be a negative reaction somehow? I cannot foresee what is the future reactions, but Yep, that's it. We are moving one step at a time. There is an important meeting on Monday, and let's see what comes out of it. But I think it's getting very close to time to just, make a call to a lot of people. Basically, open up to a lot of people. Whoever is willing, make it clear that this is going to take a lot of effort. This is going to take a lot of time to sit down, to write, to commit. Not just to write, but then later to commit to activities based on once this grant becomes successful, and see how many of us is willing to really go for it and commit and make sure they understand this huge commitment. Therefore, because I don't think a lot of people will be ready to do this huge commitment, we should just open up and ask everyone, and then get a selected group that is really willing voluntarily and then start sitting down and do just this write-up workshop.
Perhaps I could jump in just for a quick comment. And unfortunately, I have to jump back to another Zoom meeting that I left to come over here and join this much more exciting group. Really want to express my appreciation to Glenda, Krista, Chris, Dwayne, all of you who have contributed to this. I think it's really important to bring the community together to shape these kinds of ideas. That's the only way it's going to be successful. I think from AAPT's point of view, the question will be of all the opportunities for developing large grants to NSF, which ones do we want to pursue first? Perhaps some get put off till later. I think the two-year college one is ripe for submission, and when I weigh in for whatever that is worth with the powers that be, work very hard to make sure that happens. And I think the fact that a lot of groundwork has been laid with these papers will be a big help in making that move forward. I think the way the CPU sort of framed things as taking some information to NSF, I'm really not sure how productive that would be, because I think most of the ideas that are in the white paper so far are things that NSF already funds. And it's one thing to argue if you want to create an entirely different kind of effort for NSF. In this case, I think it's more where within the existing programs at NSF would these proposals best be directed. And certainly working with program officers to get their advice on that would be very important. But I think internal discussion, some of which will have to happen before the board meeting, Krista, so be prepared, will be to sort of sort out the ideas that are on the table. What does it look like AAPT can do in terms of horsepower and bandwidth and all those important things? And then who are, as Glenda emphasized, who are going to be the people who grab a hold of this, develop the ideas into a proposal, and then find the people who are going to help implement these kinds of things. I might also point out that for a number of the large-scale projects that we are getting funded through NSF right now, we're putting in substantial funds for what we're calling project managers, people who will be half-time, something of that order, paid by the grant to actually help the rest of us get organized in carrying out the project. So it's not as if everything has to be done by volunteers. And we've realized over the years that these more complex projects really need someone who is going to devote a really significant amount of time to that project. So that's another consideration, to keep your eyes and ears open for people who might be good in that role. So again, I've had my little say, continue the discussion. I'm sure Krista and Glenda and whoever else is going to be on the conversation on Monday will be able to work with the Committee on Undergraduate Physics. And we also understand a little bit more about where they see that white paper that they're creating going, and how the two-year college should be effort should be part of that. I certainly would urge them to think broadly about undergraduate physics education. It's not just in four-year colleges. In fact, most of the students are two-year colleges. So it's, I think, important that the two-year college component be part of that effort. So I apologize for having to leave. Glenda great seeing you all, and good luck with the efforts.
Yeah, thanks for your input. I think that's about where we are now. It is to try and gather from the people on this call what input might you have to this. I think if you're here, you're probably at least somewhat willing to contribute. I certainly am, or I wouldn't have jumped into other things either. But at this point, I'd say on this topic, are there questions, other input?
Tom, are
I
you
just had a-
recording this?
Yes, I am.
Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah.
Tom, let me answer part of Glenda's concern about the meeting on Monday with Marie and the rest of the Committee on Undergraduate Physics folks. I don't think there will be much resistance whatsoever to adding a fourth topic. What they wanted to do was to try to present a brief number of topics that they could promote within, for NSF funding. Adding a fourth topic should not be a real problem for them.
It's Theo. I am here because of course, I'm happy to help out with the project. I just had a question to make sure I'm clear. So the AAPT is approaching the NSF with funding priorities, and they're hoping that we'll get like a continuous source of funding for this institute. Is that the goal?
Theo, I'm not sure that, I would say that the idea is that this white paper was somewhat encouraged by NSF program officers, specifically one, and with the intent that this helps guide where they may want to direct their limited resources to funding projects, because they're going to get tons of other proposals for which they have to choose. But if they, they would like to have some kind of dedicated approach from AAPT on the kinds of projects that they would like to see funded that would have a wide community base and have a large influence. And you can see that at least 2 or 3 of these would fit that, and certainly the one that we're talking about for a National Institute for Two-Year Colleges would fit that mode. And so I think NSF would be interested in that. And I think the people who wrote the white paper would also be interested.
Keep in mind that the white paper that was presented to the board is a first draft. And as Dwayne or Tom, or I don't remember who said it, but these go through a number of iterations. So our input now is really important.
That's why I wanted to dedicate at least a big chunk of looking like most of this meeting to talking about this and getting ideas from all of you, if there were more, and kind of bringing some of you up to speed. I know this is new for many of you, and it can be like a drink from the fire hose to try and absorb all this in the short term. It gets a little bit easier if you hang around, but it's still, things become urgent, and as was mentioned, thanks to Glenda and Krista and Chris, efforts by several people here and others that sort of we got this. Oh, hey, can you give us something by Monday on Friday? And that's not, sadly, not unusual in my experience anyway. Particularly when I've been approached by four-year institutions for, oh, hey, we wanted to put a TYC in on our grant because it sounds good, we heard. That's not the impression I get about this white paper. I think there is genuine interest from the Committee on Undergraduate Education. They definitely want our input. We asked specifically, AAPT wants the two-year college committee and the two-year college group membership to have input. This was not a last minute thought. It was an unfortunate timing because everyone at AAPT has been busy with, crazy things like virtual meetings and whatnot. So I don't think that we were left behind here at all. We're definitely involved, and we're trying to be. There's a sense of being proactive here. That's really what the white paper is really more about, in my view, is AAPT and the community trying to set up NSF to say, hey, remember when we said, and you said that was a good idea, show us the money today, right? This is a good things going forward. So if you come up with some idea that you think feeds into this project, reach out to me, reach out to Krista. I'm putting myself out as a organizer / administrator for this, going forward as both the chair of the committee and someone that's really interested in seeing this happen. Put it on me. I'll do my best to keep up. So if you come up with good ideas, let me know. Other things, we've got still some time left here in our Friday Zoom. I know we've discussed this before, and you probably filled out surveys and things, but the winter meeting 2021, the virtual meeting, was it better? Was it worse? Was it what I think from my perspective anyway, one of the more important things that AAPT leadership seems to be looking for is what out of this virtual space is really valuable that we can capitalize on in the future. And I think those are the open questions. I'm still trying to figure out what's valuable to me and what helps me. So I thought I would invite all of you to chime in. Good, bad, ugly.
Krista was laughing, so I want to see what she has to say.
I was trying to think maybe because I read an email that you sent. I was thinking, what can we take away from these virtual meetings? And one of the things is, your college faculty might be able to afford a virtual meeting and not afford the in-person. But honestly, I'm so tired of being virtual that I don't want the in-person to go away once it's safe to bring it back. But winter is really hard, at least for me, to go to because it's always right at the beginning of my term. And, I'm wondering, should we consider virtual national meetings in the future? I don't know.
If I could
I
jump,
agree. I think the virtual, even though we can't shake hands and laugh and hug each other in person, I think the virtual has a certain appeal to it that I think appeals to the techie aspect of our existence here. And I wish that there was some way that we could have a virtual component to every meeting. Now, I understand the costs are substantial there, but I think it would have a certain appeal, and I think it would make it easier for high school teachers to attend, among others. So that's my 2 cents on that.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of the virtual meetings. I really like the direct interaction. I'm hoping with this proposal that we can get some kind of central location for 2-year college teachers to get together for workshops on a regular basis. I mean, it was great having all those talks recorded last summer. I didn't go to the virtual meeting for the same reason as Krista. My school's not going to let me go anywhere the first week of classes or the week before classes when we have all our meetings. But the only videos I watched last summer are the ones that people recommended to me. I just sitting through all those and trying to find something useful. It's just not the same as being in a room for me. I guess I'm like my students. I lack that focus for long periods of times clicking through videos, unless they're on Netflix, maybe, I don't know. But And there's the interactions you get with people in person. It's much easier and more efficient to share ideas in person than online. And this is coming from someone I'm very introverted and shy. Okay, so going places and intermingling is not my strong suit, but I find it much more useful professionally.
I liked also the direct ones much more. It doesn't give the same feeling, but what I liked was the ability to go and look at all the sessions, that were recorded. So even if in the future we have in-person meetings, it would be nice to have these recorded so that people can go afterwards and see what was going on.
Maybe instead of entire meetings, maybe we could designate certain sessions as being virtual at future meetings.
Yeah, these are the kind of ideas that I think are, this is what I was looking for. And I think these are the kind of ideas that will continue to be asked about. And at this point, in almost any idea is good. Do we do all virtual? Do we do some mixture of what are people looking for?
How many of you use the coffee rooms, the coffee breakout rooms during the online meeting in the winter?
I did this time because I figured out how they work. It was a black box over the summer, and I didn't get it over the summer, so I did use it this time.
I feel that at the virtual meetings, building community at the virtual meetings is harder. And maybe sort of just like for students, we learn that now taking a lot of online classes, they need to be more organized. There needs to be a better management of time. So for us too, in a sense, if we had some kind of schedule saying, hey, every night, here's TYC, we're gonna meet after everyone. This is our hour, TYC hour, go there, every day. I feel like the one we had a meeting at the end, right? So that works, but it's one meeting, and the community building is I don't know. That's the difference. So what Tia was saying, if we were live, many times we would have met. We would say, "Did you like that talk? Did you like that other?" In one meeting that we had, it's hard to share all these things. So maybe having more of a choreography, or like, hey, at night, here's where you can meet all this community group to have a general feedback. I don't know. We used to have that with posters, right? Also, it was like a meeting place, right? Where we could kind of informally, let's all go there. And the coffee room was there, but we didn't have sort of the habit or so it's about building a habit. And if we are continuing these virtual meetings and figuring out, like, having more of a recommendation to people, do this.
Yeah, I think that was a big difference with the virtual versus in-person meeting, right? It's the recommendations, or, hey, I didn't notice that in the schedule, but I'm chatting with these people and they're going to something, so I'm going to go along, and it turns out to be an amazing thing, right? But I think too, there's so much informal networking that goes on when we're in person, like, hey, let's go grab dinner and chat about stuff, and then you build a collaboration. But virtually, I found that I barely watched any of the videos because it was overwhelming to decide which ones to watch, and I got tired of staring at a screen. So I'm not spending the time or making the connections that I would in a real meeting. But on the other hand, it is cheaper. It's a lot easier to get to. And both of those things have merit. So I like the idea of having some sessions or some part of the meetings be virtual. The committee meetings, I think, work out well virtual because we can spread them out. And as someone who's interested in being friends of a number of different committees, being virtual allowed a lot more of that than the 2 committee meetings that they set up normally.
I also think if there's going to be a combination, we paid a much smaller amount to have it virtual, people can still do that, like pay a smaller amount, and that can go towards funding, the videotaping and, the other costs that go with having that virtual component afterwards even.
I know for me personally, the virtual is nice because sometimes there's 2 workshops or 2 meetings that meet simultaneously, and I'm supposed to make a choice between the 2. But if there's a virtual component, then I don't have to miss either one. So I like the virtual aspect from not having to make that choice when it comes down to that. But I think back to what Glenda was saying, I think the habit, I think that word is very important, the habit, because we are habitual and we're used to having meetings where we bump into people and we just start talking, and you have a lot of the spontaneous discussion and good things happen from that. And I think at a virtual meeting, like this past summer and winter meeting, we're at home and we're habitual at home. So it's like, oh, I have 15 minutes. I can go take the garbage out now instead of going to the coffee room. So when we're physically, we're focused. There's nothing else for us to do but go bump into each other. But when I'm at home, my daughter might just show up out of nowhere, and there's something I have to deal with her, or there's just 1,000 distractions at home. Whereas when I'm far away from home at a meeting, stuck in a hotel, I have no car, I'm very focused, extremely focused. So I like both the virtual and I like both the live. And I don't think I could ever, I think if I had to come down to a vote, simply because of finances, if I would boil it down to that, I would pick virtual if I had to pick one over the other, even though I prefer being there live, because I know prior to going virtual, it took me 5 years to convince my school to pay for me to attend an AAPT meeting. And so I got to go to my first one before COVID, thankfully. And when I asked them if I could attend virtually, they were like, how much? And I told them, they were like, oh yeah, you can go to as many of those as you want. So my school is very happy for me to attend virtually, but they're telling me to go to another one in person might be a very long time again, particularly now post-COVID, with enrollment down and all these other issues our school is dealing with, big financial issues. And I think other schools are probably dealing with those same issues as well. So it might just be because of COVID, even more difficult for people to be able to attend live. So just some of my random thoughts.
All right. Anybody else have want to add anything? I've taken lots of notes.
I mean, it's the accessibility for people for the virtual meetings, I think, is important. At the same time, I wonder about whether we're creating a 2-tiered experience where some people that can go in person get a better experience and they get more out of it. Just like our students right now, we're doing our best to teach them remotely, but I'm sure our learning goals are being achieved as effectively. And this is a pipe dream. If there's some way we could find funding to help teachers more teachers, faculty members attend these meetings, but that's probably just a fantasy.
Yeah, I did make a note of that. There is a danger of sort of an economic / funding level stratification that could emerge out of virtual versus in-person modes, and I think that is definitely a concern. We particularly TYC and high school members of AAPT who are less funded for meeting sort of activities that could really, it's likely to hit those groups harder, the groups that I'm familiar with. And so it is of concern, and it's definitely on my list here. We have just a few minutes left for this meeting officially. I'm happy to hang around and chat for a bit. But there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Our future meetings. We have one scheduled. Hopefully, you all got info from Joe. Joe, you want to promo your March 5th Zoom for the TYC?
Sure. I've been asked to present on my use of oral interviews as assessments, and that is scheduled for Friday, March 5th. I will have at least 1 or 2 students with me to demonstrate, and also to let you all ask questions. I told the students that they will be subject to being asked questions as well, and they are to answer everything honestly with no prompting from me. And actually they're actually looking forward to that. I posted the Zoom information to the listserv and to Slack. Apparently, at some point in the past, I went into Zoom and apparently turned off the option that generates all of the phone numbers. If there is a need for that, I will go back in and generate another invitation that has all of that information.
So yeah, I guess there's a question for Zoom meetings going forward. Is there a lot of utility to having the phone call-in option?
I think I turned it off because none of my students were using phones to attend the meeting. So I just made the invitation shorter, but I can go back in and reconfigure that if there's a need.
Yeah, so it looks like everybody here is not on a phone. I've seen it. I haven't seen many in other meetings, so I think that's probably okay if we just go forward.
And that's the same invitation that I use for my classes. So
yeah, so we've got Joe on March 5th. My moving forward is that continuing this program, which cheers to Glenda for getting this off the ground in the midst of pandemic emergency. I want to make sure that it continues. I think as a minimum target, I'm thinking that we should, that I'd like to get at least once a month to have these things. We were here and there. I think we did a little bit more frequently, particularly in the onset of the pandemic last spring. But I think even exiting pandemic, this is something that we should continue as a committee. There's a lot of value for the community. And my target is at least once a month. If we get more volunteerism for people that are able, willing to present on whatever they're interested in, and maybe even just lead discussions about. This doesn't have to be something that you feel expert on. It may just be something you really want to talk about, something you really want to gather information about. And we can keep those things going. I see maybe a couple of weeks we can just do general discussion, have coffee. In favor of 2 weeks, I will set one up for 2 weeks from today. Fortunately, I have the 26th.
I've heard that Greg Mulder has like a presentation kind of ready if we want to talk about.
I reached out to Greg. I haven't heard back from him. I'm not sure if I had his correct email, so I'll try again. But yes, if anybody runs across Greg, tell him that we heard he has stuff and he's going to be on the hook. So.
And yeah, and yeah, I think we had a few other ideas, but I can't remember now. They're in the
yeah, I was going to reach out to Gloria Ramos about the mastery grading. I know she did a workshop at the did anybody go to that workshop in winter meeting 21?
Yes, I did. Let's see.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting I had to stop my video because my internet connection was flaky. Yeah. But yes, and it was fabulous. And I am trying mastery-based grading this term. So
I've been using mastery-based / standards-based for a while, and I'm going to touch on a little bit of that in my presentation, because that's what we've been using in my courses for some time. So we'll get a little bit of that in my talk.
Excellent. So yeah, if, like I said, if there's a topic you want to hear about, send me a message. If there's something you are interested in talking about, send me a message. If there's something you want to gather information on, send me a message. And be aware that I may put you on the hook to sort of take some organizational charge of this, spreading the work around. But organization could just be, you're the host for the Zoom meeting and you tell everybody, come talk about this thing I'm interested in, which is pretty much what I did to you guys today. So thanks for coming to this.
I just want to say that it just makes me feel so good being a part of this committee and this outfit here. I think we were ahead of the curve when it came to professional development when the pandemic hit. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I get more out of these meetings with all of you than I do from the official sanctioned professional development that we kind of have now. So this has been very important to me. So thank you all.
Go ahead, Faye.
And before we all leave, Glenda or whoever knows what the timing and how to get into the Monday meeting, if you could send that to me, I'd appreciate it. If you already did, then my apologies. It must be in my spam.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that too. So I will send it along, and anybody else that remembers, send it to Chris too, because to Krista,
Yes,
because it will escape my attention.
Well. I'll need it as well.
I'm easily distracted, so I will say I'll send that to you, and then I'll get distracted by something. Yeah, back me up. Thanks for your help. I'll set something up for, it's now 2:01, so I'll set something up for February 26th. We'll just have a meet and greet, no agenda. Talk about what interests us and what's been going on. There's plenty of the what's been going on, I'm sure.
And I would be interested in hearing what you guys are doing for your regional sectionals meetings, because we're going to have one in Southwestern Ohio on March 20th, and we're putting it together, but I'd like to hear what you guys are doing.
We're doing virtual again, and we are meeting jointly with the Tennessee section, which will be a first. So we're really looking forward to that.
Faye, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before I was trying to unmute myself and it would not let me unmute. I was clicking and it wouldn't unmute. Yeah. I wanted to ask, is there, I know previous meetings, I had no problem. I would always get an email with a link, and I noticed like for this meeting, the last one, I didn't get that. And I looked in my junk folder and I'm not seeing it there. Is there a central location, like if I don't get an email, where I can get the meeting link?
I'm officially the overall organizer. If I don't know about it, then send me email. My name, thomas.herring@wnc.edu. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
So you all have it, if I can type today. But feel free to email me if you don't see these things popping up at this email address. And I'm going to try, we'll try to keep these in the, I send these to the listserv. So if you're not on the TYC listserv, I'm not sure how you found this.
I am getting some emails from the, oh wait, I was getting emails from the listserv. I'm getting emails. Oh, I am getting it from the CPTYC-L. I am getting those because like I got Joe's meeting link.
Yeah, this one was sent out a couple of weeks ago.
I think a reminder.
I don't know that I managed a reminder because I reminded myself about yesterday. So that's how far ahead I am.
So
I will attempt to do better with reminders.
And I will try to also just post something in the Slack channel.
Mhm.
Because
Because I tried to go to the Slack. I'm like, is there any meeting links here? And I couldn't find one.
I posted it this afternoon in Zoom meetings because I also couldn't find the link for today's meeting. So once I found it, I posted something up.
I'm coming to rely more on the Slack, which is kind of weird for me. I thought I would prefer the listserv, but I don't know. Slack seems to be growing.
I'm involved with like something like 6 Slack channels, so I can't keep any of them straight anymore. It's become a lost cause.
You can't be Slack using Slack.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I think that's all that I had on the agenda for today. I'm happy to hang around and chat for a few minutes. I weirdly don't have another scheduled meeting this afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Krista. Hope you
I'm
get out
gonna
to
hang
the
out for a minute because I can't seem to get back into the Slack channel, and I'm not sure why.
no.
So if anyone's a Slack expert, I sort of bookmarked the page and I would just click on it. And now it says I need to sign into your workspace. Anyone know what that means?
Hey, Tony. Yeah, so you need to get TYC Physics, like the specific Slack channel. There's some weird thing about logging in that way.
Oh, that didn't seem to work.
Oh,
Although I mean, any of us can invite you back and you would be able to go back in.
yeah.
Okay. How did I get kicked off to begin with? That's
I
weird.
have no idea.
So I don't know. I think it may just be an activity. I think
Okay.
that
Yeah, I
could
haven't
be
checked
the
it.
issue.
Like a timeout or something.
Yeah. And sometimes you forget a password or something like that.
What's the name of it says your workplace. Do I just type TYC Physics?
I think if you search TYC Physics, it will show up.
It's here. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
But it's just tycphysics.slack.com is the. I think that's what Slack thinks the workspace name is.
Have you stopped recording yet, Tom?
No, I will.